Good evening, and welcome to the Connecticut Department of Transportation's Public Information Meeting for Accessible Pedestrian Signal Upgrades. This project intends to upgrade pedestrian elements at existing traffic signals throughout southern Connecticut to match current practice. My name is Claire Sylvester, and I am the project engineer for this project at the Connecticut Department of Transportation. I want to thank everyone for taking the time to join us. We hope our presentation will be informative, and we hope to answer your questions and concerns during tonight's question and answer session. By the end of tonight's meeting, we hope you will have a better understanding on the importance and benefit of this safety improvement. If you are viewing this presentation on Zoom, you have the option to view captions or subtitles in this presentation. To turn on this feature, select the CC button at the lower right corner of your screen to turn on the captioning. Then choose the language by selecting the setting upward chevron next to the CC button. Select speaking language and select the desired one. For the meeting overview, we started with some housekeeping, and we'll have a few more housekeeping items before I introduce the project team. I'll talk about the purpose of the meeting, and we will give an overview of the project, followed by some of the coordination efforts that we've started and will be continuing as the project progresses. We'll talk about the project costs and schedule and give you an idea of what the next steps are and the timeline. At the end, we will have our question and answer session where you can let us know your questions or comments and we can respond to them. At the end of the presentation tonight, there will be a question and answer session through the Zoom Q&A. You can also ask a question by sending an email to dotproject017-0549@ct.gov or by leaving a voicemail at 860-594-2020. The comment period will be open through Thursday, August 13th, and you can send an email or leave a voicemail until that date. We also have a project webpage which contains this information on how to provide comments or ask questions. A live recording of tonight's presentation, including the live event Q&A, will be stored at portal.ct.gov/CTDOT VPIM Our presentation will be approximately 20 minutes, and once it is completed, we will host a live question and answer session. As I mentioned, you will have 3 ways of communicating with us during the live Q&A. One method is to ask your question directly into the Zoom event. You can ask a question by clicking on the Q&A icon at the bottom of the meeting page and type in your question in the pop-up window. If you are an audio-only participant, dial *9 to raise and lower your hand. Title VI, Your Civil Rights. No person shall, on the basis of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation or subject to discrimination in the development of this project. There is a voluntary post-meeting survey and Title VI information available. A recording of this presentation will be posted to CTDOT's YouTube channel after the event. We ask and would greatly appreciate it if you can fill out the very brief feedback survey at the end of the presentation. The survey will help CTDOT improve these public meetings going forward. Again, the project webpage is portal.ct.gov/DOT/projects/DOT Southern CT 0173-0549. There is also a civil rights flyer that's available. The website for that is portal.ct.gov/DOT/equity/title-VI. This slide is the Title VI notice to the public that says any person who believes she or he has been aggrieved by an unlawful discriminatory practice under Title VI may file a complaint with the Connecticut Department of Transportation. For more information on the Connecticut DOT Civil Rights Program and the procedures to file a complaint, you can contact the CTDOT Title VI Coordinator at 860-594-2169. Telecommunications Relay Services 711 or email deborah.goss@ct.gov. This is the same civil rights flyer as before, but in Spanish. I will pause here for a moment for people to read. I would now like to introduce the project team. Matthew Bloom is our Division Chief of Traffic Engineering. Natasha Fatu is the State Safety Engineer for the state of Connecticut and the Principal Engineer of CTDOT's Traffic Safety Unit. Balaj Zoke is a Supervising Engineer at CTDOT's Traffic Safety Unit and is the Project Manager. I am Claire Sylvester, a Transportation Engineer at CTDOT's Traffic Safety Unit and also the lead project engineer for this project. Colleen Byrne is a consultant engineer for Tie and Bond and will be the primary presenter for the remainder of tonight's meeting. Kathleen Erickson is representing the CTDOT's right-of-way group. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to provide an introduction to CTDOT's Accessible Pedestrian Signal Upgrade Project. We will provide project overview and status, obtain public input, and respond to public comments via live Q&A session. The state owns and maintains 2,801 traffic signals. The upgrade of pedestrian signal components to match current state practice. The goal is to enhance pedestrian accessibility to address the safety of vulnerable road users. Factors that are considered: the existing pedestrian treatment, the age of the equipment, and the pedestrian crash history. I will now hand it over to Colleen for the remainder of the presentation.
Great, thank you, Claire. Good evening, everyone. My name is Colleen Byrne. I'm a consultant engineer with Tie and Bond, working with CTDOT on this project. So I'll be walking through the project overview, starting with the locations included in the project, and then covering the types of improvements being proposed. The project includes accessible pedestrian upgrades at 24 locations across District 3, which serves southwestern Connecticut. So these locations are distributed across several municipalities as shown here on the screen, including Branford, Bridgeport, Darien, Guilford, Milford, New Haven, North Haven, Norwalk, Orange, Trumbull, Wallingford, West Haven, and Woodbridge. So most municipalities include 1 or 2 locations, while Bridgeport includes 6 locations. The map shown here provides a regional view of where these improvements are being proposed, and these locations were selected by CTDOT based on the system needs and where accessibility upgrades would provide the greatest benefit. So moving on to the purpose and need. So the purpose of this project is to bring pedestrian facilities into compliance with current MUTCD and ADA requirements. So this includes installing pedestrian signal push buttons, countdown pedestrian signal heads, updated sidewalk ramps, and where appropriate, implementing leading pedestrian intervals, which we call LPI, and I'll discuss that a little bit more shortly. These improvements provide clearer information to pedestrians about when it's safe to cross, while also improving the accessibility and the usability of these crossings. They also support safer travel for all road users by encouraging more predictable interactions between pedestrians and our vehicles. From a safety standpoint, studies have shown that countdown pedestrian signals can reduce pedestrian crashes by approximately 25%. And leading pedestrian intervals can reduce crashes by up to 60%. So when we look at the pedestrian accommodations at each location, there might be several types of pedestrian improvements that you see as part of this project. As shown on the slide here, these can include updated regulatory signage, pedestrian countdown signals, with accessible push buttons that provide both audible and tactile feedback, and new or improved crosswalks. We're also upgrading sidewalk curb ramps to meet ADA standards, and where needed, adding short sections of sidewalk to better connect those ramps. Overall, these improvements are intended to create a more continuous, accessible, and user-friendly pedestrian network through each of the project's intersections. Concurrent pedestrian phasing. So this slide illustrates what's known as concurrent pedestrian phasing and is shown in the graphic. In the picture on your screen, pedestrians cross in the same direction as parallel vehicle traffic that has the green signal indication. So one of the key benefits of the proposed upgrades is the addition of dedicated pedestrian signal indications, which clearly show when it's appropriate to cross. So at many of the existing locations, pedestrians do not have dedicated pedestrian signal indications, and instead they may rely on vehicle signal indications or less intuitive crossing information. So by providing a dedicated pedestrian signal, this helps reduce that uncertainty for both pedestrians and our drivers and improves overall pedestrian compliance while making the crossings more intuitive for all road users. And then when we have concurrent pedestrian phasing with leading pedestrian interval, which I mentioned earlier, so LPI for short, some of the locations in this project will include LPI. And as illustrated on the slide here, LPI provides pedestrians with a head start. So typically that's 7 seconds before the vehicles then receive a green indication. So this gives pedestrians a chance to establish themselves in the crosswalk before turning vehicles receive a green indication. After that interval, the pedestrian phase continues concurrently with vehicle traffic. So this LPI treatment has been shown to significantly improve safety by reducing conflicts with pedestrians in turning vehicles, as I mentioned earlier. So a little bit about project coordination. Coordination with the municipalities began early in the project through notification letters that were sent to each town. We're holding this virtual public information meeting tonight as part of that outreach effort to gather public input. Each municipality was also received a notification of tonight's meeting. We'll continue to coordinate with utility companies, both through virtual and field meetings, to identify potential conflicts before the final design. And all of these efforts will help identify issues early and ensure that our stakeholders remain coordinated as the project advances. So now I'll touch on right-of-way impacts that may be associated with the project. At some locations, temporary or permanent easements might be required to accommodate the proposed improvements, so such as those sidewalk ramps or the traffic signal equipment that I covered earlier. The right-of-way evaluation is still ongoing. Any required easements or acquisitions will follow CTDOT's standard right-of-way process. There were also 2 locations identified as being adjacent to historic properties. So those are sites in Bridgeport, intersection 0152-354, and Guilford, intersection 059204. At these locations, the Office of Environmental Planning will review any potential impacts as part of the upcoming preliminary design review. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Kathleen Erickson from CTDOT's Office of Rights-of-Way, who will provide an overview of that process.
Okay, great. Thanks, Colleen. My name is Kathleen Erickson. Again, I'm project coordinator with the department's Division of Rights-of-Way. Our office consists of the different agents you see listed on the screen here, and we're responsible for acquiring property rights that are needed for transportation projects all throughout the state. So I'll just be giving you a brief overview of what that acquisition process looks like. Before I jump into that, though, I do just want to reiterate that the property impacts for this project are still being finalized, and they could change as the design is progressing. Also, any property rights that are acquired are done so in accordance with Connecticut General Statutes, Sections 13A-73 and 13A-98E, as well as the Uniform Act. And next slide, please. So the right-of-way acquisition process begins once the project reaches a development milestone and all of the property impacts have been determined. At that point, each affected property owner will receive from our office a formal letter of intent to acquire, as well as a property map depicting the exact property rights to be acquired. You can see on the screen here just a sample of what the property maps look like. Next, our office will determine the fair market value of those property rights, which will be used to create an offer of just compensation. The property owner will receive the offer in writing, and a right-of-way agent will be available to meet with them to discuss the project, their specific property impacts, and the offer itself. The property owner will be given a reasonable amount of time to consider the state's offer and to enter into negotiations. And then once an agreement has been reached, the department will prepare all necessary documents in order to record the deed and the property map on the town land records. Now, if an agreement cannot be reached, in order to maintain the project schedule, the department may acquire the necessary property rights through its power of eminent domain. If that were to happen, the state would file a notice of condemnation with the Superior Court, along with a monetary deposit in the amount of the state's offer. The property owner would then have 6 months to file an appeal if they felt the state's offer was inadequate. Now, whether or not the owner chooses to appeal, the money that's deposited in the court is available to be withdrawn by the owner at any time. It is important to note, too, the state will only be acquiring the rights that are necessary in order to complete this project. But if there are any questions regarding the right-of-way acquisition process, I'm happy to answer them during the Q&A portion of tonight's meeting. But for now, I'm going to turn it back over to Colleen to continue on.
Thank you, Kathleen. So touching on project cost and design schedule, the total project cost is estimated to be around $6 million with 90% federal funding and 10% state funds. From a schedule standpoint, preliminary design is currently under review. The project will advance into the semi-final design phase this fall, with final design plans anticipated in late 2027, and the project expected to be advertised for construction in early 2028. Construction is currently anticipated to begin in the spring or summer of 2028. These dates are obviously subject to change as the project progresses, but this reflects our current schedule. And then wrapping up with next steps. So our project team will continue advancing the design by incorporating feedback received through this meeting and other outreach efforts. We will continue refining the traffic signal designs, complete our utility coordination, evaluate any right-of-way needs, and prepare the project for final design and construction. So these efforts help to ensure that all of our project elements are fully coordinated before construction begins. With that, I think we can move into our Q&A session.
Thank you. At the end of the presentation tonight, there will be a question and answer session, which we are in now. You can all ask a question through the Zoom Q&A by sending an email to dotproject0173-0549@ct.gov or by leaving a voicemail at 860-594-2020. The comment period will be open through Thursday, August 13th, and you can send an email or leave a voicemail until that date. We also have a project webpage which contains this information on how to provide comments or ask questions. A recording of tonight's presentation, including the live Q&A, will be stored at portal.ct.gov/ctdotvpim archive.
All right. Thank you for that great presentation, Claire, Colleen, and Kathleen. It looks like we do have a couple of questions that are coming in. So we'll start with the first one. From Mike Wheeler. There's a little spelling error, so I'll try and figure out what the question is, but how do you, I think, find where the crosswalks are in your town? Or it's TUND, but I think how do you figure out where the crosswalks are in your town? Maybe in the related to the project? Find. Yep. Okay. How do you find where the crosswalks are in your town?
Regarding which crosswalks are in this project, we do have that posted with the specific project locations on the project website. So that would be where you would find which crosswalks in this project are are included in the project.
Okay. If Mike, if you have any follow-up questions to that, let us know and we'll see if we can figure out exactly what location you're looking for. We have another question here from Kate. It says, is there a place where I can see the proposed early plans for the upgrades? I received a letter about this meeting, which makes me think it in some way affects a property I'm involved with.
Yes, preliminary plans will be posted to the project website, which again, there is a link in the chat for where you can find the project website as well as what is shown on the screen. We will be posting that in the next couple weeks during the comment period to see the locations and the impacts on adjacent properties. As described in today's meeting, if there are any right-of-way impacts to your property specifically, that coordination will continue on.
Okay, thank you. We have another question here from an anonymous. The question is, how were sites for improvements selected, and did the town have any input?
We did not reach out to the towns during our initial location selection as these are state-owned signals. The main ways that locations were selected were if there were any pedestrian crashes at locations, if the signalized intersection was an existing side street green pedestrian accommodation, as well as what the age of the equipment was. If the equipment was past a certain age, it was determined that in the future it would be more beneficial to have all of the equipment replaced rather than this partial replacement.
Right. So just to add to that a tiny bit, I think to clarify, the most important thing that Claire is saying is that we started, like, every location had to have at least Side Street Green, and that was the very beginning starting point. And after that, we kind of whittled down locations with additional factors, including what she was saying, the pedestrian crashes, edge of equipment, things like that. So thank you for that question, and hopefully that was a clear answer. We have Jay Cosgrove with WHATT. How did the state decide the two locations for new pet crosswalks, etc., determined in Wallingford? So I think Claire kind of just answered that one, hopefully. But if you do have follow-up questions, Jay, please feel free to let us know in the Q&A. And then I think a follow-up from Kate as well. Have you already Have you already notified these property owners who have a rights of way potential issue?
At this stage, we have not notified the property owners where we anticipate a rights of way acquisition, although that is in the process of being finalized. Similar to how you received a letter for this meeting, all the adjacent property owners for these signalized locations were notified of this meeting, so they were able to potentially attend this meeting and find out what kinds of improvements we're proposing. Again, the majority of the impacts we're expecting are going to be to sidewalks and pedestals, so it would most likely be minimal impacts to the edge of properties where there is existing sidewalk or existing signal equipment.
Right, correct. Any easement that we would need to take as part of the project would be very minimal and, not really invasive. Okay, thanks. Kate says thanks, so you're welcome. Thank you. We'll keep this going for a little while, see if any additional questions come in. Just a reminder for everybody that the public comment period for the presentation is open through Thursday, August 13th. So if you think of something later, feel free to reach out to us within the next 2 weeks, and we'll be reviewing all the voicemails and emails within that time frame. But just to clarify, the live chat option is only available during tonight's live event. We do have the project webpage up in the chat as well. That's portal.ct.gov/DOT Southern. CT 0173-0549. And if you click that, obviously it'll take you to the project webpage, which does have some information already on the website, but there will be additional information, as Claire mentioned, such as the plans, the preliminary design plans that will be available. We also have the voicemail number. You can reach us at 860-594-2020 to leave a voicemail, and just please mention the project number if you do so. This is project 0173-0549. And we do have the project email address as well. It's just dotproject0173-0549@ct.gov. All right, so we do have a follow-up from Jay Cosgrove. The locations chosen in Wallingford have existing signals or sidewalk only. And then he says, thanks for the info. So I think we answered that. But yes, they do all have existing sidewalks. I'm sorry, existing signals. And the sidewalks are location dependent.
I will also note that this type of improvement is anticipated to be in future projects. We will have recurring projects to get all of the state signals to this new design standard, but at this time, these are the locations chosen for this project.
All right. While we wait for any possible additional questions to come in, I do want to remind and encourage everybody to please participate in the brief survey at the link that we have provided in the chat, but that is also available on the project webpage. Just to give a little feedback on how everybody thought tonight went. And again, we do have the public comment period open for another 2 weeks. So Thursday, August 13th. Anything we receive until then will be reviewed and incorporated into the project as needed. Chase says, will do. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Let's see. Again, we will keep this going for another few minutes, see if any additional questions trickle in. And we'll just give it another minute or so, just in case anything comes in. But again, we do have the comment period open for the next 2 weeks in case something comes up between now and then. All right. Well, looks like it is slowly coming to an end tonight. So I'll just recap everything real quick. Thank you all for joining us this evening. We'd like to remind everyone again about the comment period being open for the next 2 weeks until Thursday, August 13th. Questions can be sent to us at the project email at dotproject0173-0549@ct.gov or by phone at 860-594-2020. Please also visit our project website if you have any questions. It's in the chat, but it is also portal.ct.gov/DOT Southern CT 0173-0549. Again, you can find copies of the plans once they are uploaded there, but additional info as well, and a link to the brief survey again that we encourage everybody to fill out. Looks like there are still no questions. So I think with that, thank you once again for your time and enjoy the rest of your night.